we heard no news except from the diligent and confident detectives scattered about New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Virginia, who were all following fresh and encouraging clues until shortly after 2 p.m., when this telegram came. Baxter Center, 2:15. Elephant been here, plastered over with circus bills, and broke up a revival, striking down and damaging many who were on the point of entering upon a better life. Citizens penned him up and established a guard. When Detective Brown and I arrived, sometime after, we entered enclosure and proceeded to identify Elephant by photograph and description. All masks tallied exactly except one, which we could not see, the boil scar under armpit. To make sure, Brown kept under to look and was immediately brained, that is, head crushed and destroyed, though nothing issued from debris. All fled, so did Elephant, striking right and left with much effect. He escaped, but left bold blood track from cannon wounds. Rediscovery certain. He broke southward through a dense forest. Brent, detective. That was the last telegram. At nightfall, a fog shut down which was so dense that objects but 3 feet away could not be discerned. This lasted all night. The ferry boats and even the omnibuses had to stop running. Next morning, the papers were as full of detective theories as before. They had all our tragic facts in detail also, and a great many more which they had received from their telegraphic correspondence. Column after column was occupied, a third of its way down, with glaring headlines, which made my heart sick to read. Their general tone was like this: "The white elephant at large. He moves upon his fatal march. Whole villages deserted by their fright-stricken occupants. Pale terror goes before him. Death and devastation follow after. After these, the detectives. Barns destroyed, factories gutted, harvests destroyed, public assemblies dispersed, accompanied by scenes of carnage impossible to describe. Theories of 34 of the most distinguished detectives on the forces. Theory of Chief Blunt." "There," said Inspector Blunt, almost betrayed into excitement. "This is magnificent. This is the greatest windfall that any detective organization ever had. The fame of it will travel to the ends of the earth and endure to the end of time, and my name with it." But there was no joy for me. I felt as if I had committed all those red crimes, and that the elephant was only my irresponsible agent. And how the list had grown! In one place, he had interfered with an election and killed 5 repeaters. He had followed this act with destruction of 2 pool fellows named Donahue and McFlanagan, who had found a refuge in the home of the oppressed of all lands only the day before, and were in the act of exercising for the first time the noble right of American citizens at the polls, when stricken down by the relentless hand of the scourge of Siam. In another, he had found a crazy sensation preacher preparing his next season's heroic attacks on the dance, the theater, and other things which can't strike back, and had stepped on him. And in still another place, he had killed a lightning rod agent. And so the list went on, growing redder and redder, and more heartbreaking. 60 persons had been killed, and 240 wounded. All the accounts bore testimony to the activity and devotion of the detectives, and all closed with the remark that 300,000 citizens and 4 detectives saw the dread creature, and 2 of the latter he destroyed. I dreaded to hear the telegraphic instrument begin to click again. By and by, the messages began to pour in, but I was happily disappointed in their nature. It was soon apparent that all trace of the elephant was lost. The fog had enabled him to search out a good hiding place unobserved. telegrams from the most absurdly distant points reported that a dim vast mass had been glimpsed there through the fog at such and such an hour, and was undoubtedly the elephant. This dim vast mass had been glimpsed in New Haven, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania, in interior New York, in Brooklyn, and even in the city of New York itself. But in all cases, the dim vast mass had vanished quickly and left no trace. Every detective of the large force scattered over this huge extent of country sent his hourly report, and each and every one of them had a clue and was shadowing something and was hot upon the heels of it. But the day passed without an other result. The next day, the same. The next, just the same. The newspaper reports began to grow monotonous with facts that amounted to nothing, clues which led to nothing, and theories which had nearly exhausted the elements which surprise and delight and dazzle. By advice of the inspector, I doubled the reward. 4 more dull days followed. Then came a bitter blow to the poor, hard-working detectives. The journalists declined to print their theories and coldly said, "Give us a rest." 2 weeks after the elephant's disappearance, I raised the reward to $75,000 by the inspector's advice. It was a great sum, but I felt that I would rather sacrifice my whole private fortune than lose my credit with my government. Now that the detectives were in adversity, the newspapers turned upon them and began to fling the most stinging sarcasms at them. This gave the minstrels an idea, and they dressed themselves as detectives and hunted the elephant on stage in the most extravagant way. The caricaturists made pictures of detectives scanning the country with spyglasses, while the elephant at their backs stole apples out of their pockets. And they made all sorts of ridiculous pictures of the detective badge. You've seen that badge printed in gold on the back of detective novels. So no doubt it is a wide staring eye with the legend, "We never sleep."